Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. In 1989, the United Nations said we only had until the year 2000 to save the planet from global warming. Governments have a 10-year window of opportunity to solve the greenhouse effect before it goes beyond human control. And almost 35 years later, the United Nations says that the Earth is boiling.
And for scientists, it is unequivocal. Humans are to blame. All this is entirely consistent with predictions and repeated warnings. The only surprise is the speed of the change. Climate change is here, it is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived. The air is unbreathable, the heat is unbearable, and the level of fossil fuel profits and climate inaction is unacceptable. Leaders must lead.
The United Nations Secretary General said that scientists agree with his assessment that Earth is boiling. But last year's Nobel Prize winner in physics said something completely different. I don't believe there is a climate crisis. Key processes are exaggerated and misunderstood by approximately 200 times. Freeman Dyson was considered the most brilliant mathematician and physicist of recent generations. He also had a different opinion. He signed this petition saying there is no convincing scientific evidence that human release of carbon dioxide, methane, or other greenhouse gases is causing or will in the foreseeable future cause catastrophic heating of the Earth's atmosphere and disruption of the Earth's climate. Moreover, there is substantial scientific evidence that increases in atmospheric carbon dioxide produce many beneficial effects upon the natural plant and animal environments of the Earth. Edward Teller, who is father of the U.S. hydrogen bomb, also signed that petition. He was prominently featured in the movie Oppenheimer. PBS did a documentary about this, and they blurred out Edward Teller's name because they didn't want people to see that a very prominent scientist like Dr. Teller disagreed with their scam. PBS prefers to get their science from high school truants like Greta Thunberg. The 1973 Nobel Prize winner in physics also said that global warming is a non-problem. 49 of NASA's top astronauts and scientists from the Apollo program, which put us on the moon, wrote a letter to the NASA administrator blasting the agency for making unwarranted claims about the role of carbon dioxide in global warming. But the United Nations Secretary General said that scientists unequivocally agree with him. Perhaps he was talking about scientists like Greta Thunberg.
And for scientists, it is unequivocal. Humans are to blame.
So let's take a look at where his boiling Earth story came from. It's all over the press. Water temperature off Florida coast hits 101.1 degrees. Coral is dying off. Could be a world record. Extreme sea surface temperatures challenge world record. 100 degrees. Manatee Bay north of Key Largo. Waters off the South Florida coast rose to 101.1 degrees Fahrenheit. The reading could be unprecedented globally. It's a great story, but it's completely fake. The Florida state climatologist explained that it's not a sea surface temperature, and that same location reaches 100 degrees fairly often. In 2017, they got up to 102 degrees. The measurement was taken in a shallow pond near the outlet of a river coming off of the Everglades. That is a pond temperature or a swamp temperature. It is not a sea surface temperature. The actual sea surface temperature in the region is about 86 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty typical for this time of year. The press, which claims they're fighting disinformation, universally ran with the same identical fake news story. When the press runs with these hysterical climate stories, it's pretty safe to assume that what they're saying is nonsense. In 2012, the Australians said there would be no more snow in Australia by the year 2020. And this is what Australia looks like today. Most people would describe that as snow. The press is always trying to scare people with ridiculous climate stories that have nothing to do with reality. 35 years ago, NASA's James Hansen started the global warming scare before Congress. and 15 years ago he said the Arctic would be ice-free within 5 to 10 years, or by the year 2018. But there's been no meaningful change in Arctic sea ice extent since he made that prediction. Also in 1988, Hansen predicted that lower Manhattan would be underwater within 20 or 30 years, or by the year 2018. Hansen has no idea what he's talking about, but he speaks very confidently, and Democrats recognize him as being a climate prophet. Arctic sea ice is not gone. Extent is a little bit below the 1981 to 2010 median, and it's close to the normal range. July 26, Arctic sea ice extent is the highest in 14 years, and it's also higher than 2005. There's not much evidence that the Earth is burning up. The percent of the United States who have reached 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius through July 26 is the second lowest on record and down more than 50% from 1931. In 2006, Al Gore said we only have until the year 2016 to save the world from global warming. And now he says we can achieve net zero by the year 2050. Once again, there's no basis to what Al Gore is saying. The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has been increasing exponentially through dozens of completely useless climate agreements. The press and politicians are trying to scare people with completely fake climate news. They are desperately trying to get the public to shut down the supply of low-cost, reliable fuel, which billions of people depend on for their day-to-day survival. Toto has been pulling back the curtain on this scam for the past 15 years. You can visit him, Kyrie Caesar, Toki Upla, and the 4 new puppies on the web at realclimatescience.com.